on that. Hey, man. See you. See you.
Yeah.
Stay hydrated.
That's.
Goes out right quick.
You don't sweat, dude.
But
All right, it is 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock. We'll go ahead and call our meeting to order. If you're joining us by virtually, when it's time for public comments, we ask that you use the raise hand feature in Zoom. So our first item of business will be to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
second.
We have a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We'll mention that Commissioner Saxon is joining us virtually this afternoon. So, all right, IDA met earlier this afternoon to issue some economic development bonds, and so actions required by the Board of Commissioners as well. So we're going to follow kind of the same format and start with Courtney to come up and kind of talk about the new business coming to Oconee County.
Sure. So thank you guys for having me here, and I'm thrilled to be here after about 4 years of working on this project. So I'm happy to say that we have come to you to ask for your support and approval of the bonds to get Costco here in Oconee. As I mentioned, we've been working this project. I've been working the project for 4 years, but Daniel, Chairman, you've been, and many of you have been involved, and then Frank Bishop as well for close to probably 11 years, 10 or 11 years on this project. But I wanted to take a little bit of time to tell you guys a little bit more about Costco, what it means for them coming here. Daniel will kind of come behind and share all the intricacies of the deal itself, because it's one of the most complicated deals I've ever worked in. Probably the 15 to 18 years of doing this, I've never seen a deal like this, but it just stands to say that we have worked tirelessly to make sure that this is a deal that's in the best interest of all parties involved. So a little bit about Costco. They are of the world's fourth largest retailer in the world. I mean, that's huge. Actually, I'm going to borrow something. So I just wanted to make sure that I have all my numbers correct here. So they're going to be looking at the site that we have deemed, I think, in the county, the Costco site, which is adjacent to Hobby Lobby. That site is a 23-acre site currently owned by the Bishop Company. The building itself will be 155,000 square feet plus of a building, flanked by 699 dedicated parking spots for Costco, with an 18 pump fuel center, which has the ability to be expanded to 24 fuel pumps, which is the largest that they've ever done. That is the ability, if the demand so calls for it, they'll be able to do that rather quickly. They're really excited about this opportunity, and this would make, once this warehouse is open, which we're hoping mid 2022, May, June timeframe, this would be the 16th location for Costco in Georgia, the 77th location in the Southeast region, and the 14th location in the greater Atlanta metropolitan market. This would be, the community of our size has never seen a Costco. So this is a huge win for our community. Although Oconee County is approximately 41,000 residents, the draw for Costco is about 450,000 to 500,000 in our regional draw. So that's a huge number that they see. And it doesn't hurt that we're easily accessible by so many communities. A little bit about Costco in terms of their employee and their stance on their employees, I should say. Costco is a retailer unlike any other in the world of retailing, in the way that they treat their employees and how they pay, and they really do value those individuals. They're not just bodies to fill a space, they're actually individuals that are working for that company that they value. For this facility, we're going to be anywhere from 253 to probably 275 to 280 employees. The starting rate currently for Costco employees is $16.50. But the average hourly wage for a Costco employee is $23 an hour, which after 6 years, you actually get a starting bonus of $5,000 with Costco, and then average wage for most Costco employees is around $58,000. So that's a really good thing coming from a retailer. Sundays is time and a half, which is great for those who are going to dedicate their time to working on a Sunday. Costco also provides a pretty hefty medical, dental, and vision benefit package. They also offer long-term and short-term and disability. And one of the things that's really interesting and really awesome about Costco is they actually will pay for their employees to further their education, but not just their employees, their dependents as well. So that's a really, really strong stance that they really value the future of their employees, but their employees' children as well. We expect this store to, the first year, we expect the store, conservatively speaking, I think it could be even more, but we expect around $94 million in sales tax revenue for our community. And then it's on average that they will increase that at least by 8%. So by 2030, we would be approximately 151 million in sales tax revenue. Which
Sales,
Go ahead.
yeah, in sales. Not
in sales,
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
not revenue.
yeah.
Sorry, in sales revenue.
This deal just got
revenue
better.
for them producing. Yes, thank you for that. That would be great, wouldn't it? And so what we can say too is that they are a strong retailer. In the history of Costco, they've never closed a store. They do have a store south of the city that's been transitioned into a business development or a business distribution center, which allows businesses, specifically just everyday citizens, to come in and they get their goods from a business distribution standpoint. But across the globe, they've never closed a store. They're excited. We've worked hard again with Frank Bishop, the current owner of the property. He's here today, and I think would like to share a little bit with you. But are there any questions specifically related to Costco, their model, timeline, anything that's not that we haven't covered? Site.
Any questions, Commissioner?
Chris, I think I'll wait.
Okay, very good.
Make that answer.
Okay.
Yeah. And Daniel will follow behind with a lot of the other details. Frank.
Chairman Daniel, Commissioner Harden, Commissioner Horton, Commissioner Saxon, and Commissioner Thomas. We thank you for your patience and support in bringing this project this close to Oconee County. It's been a long road and we've all worked hard. Couldn't have done it without your help, and hope you know that, and we know that, and we appreciate what you've done to make this possible. If there's, as I've said at the Board of National Development Authority meeting, I hope you make the right vote. Thank you.
With that, we'll turn it over to Daniel.
Justin reminded me that sometimes liberal arts majors know easier ways to put things. And the simplest way to understand this transaction is it's a strange kind of tax district. This store will generate somewhere in the neighborhood of $3 million in sales tax with loss, SWAS, and ELOS. Of course, if T-SPLOS passes, that's an extra $1 million, beginning with the first year. Of that, $1 million will go toward paying for incentives. So we get 3 million in, we keep 2 million. $1 million is with the Board of Education, $1 million is with the county and the municipalities. I'll go into a little bit more detail, but that's really the simple way to understand all this is we're committing $1 million a year out of money that we don't have now. And we'll be getting $1 million addition to that, and the school board will be getting $1 million. So how are we gonna do all that? The IDA has approved issuing bonds in an amount not to exceed $16 million to pay for developed property and site improvements required by Costco for the location on Parkway Boulevard. Those bonds cover cost of issuance, capitalized interest, a debt reserve, and costs related to the property tax incentives that the county will offer, or the IDA will offer with the county's consent. County will make payments on the bonds for about 16 years. The maturity is December 31st, 2048, but we anticipate that that would pay off in about 16 years. The obligations of the IDA and the county are legally limited we can never pay more money than the county's share of the local option sales tax generated by this Costco location. That's absolute in the documents. If Costco closes, county doesn't know anything. If Costco moves 5 miles down the road, county doesn't know anything. It's strictly limited to this Costco at this location and an amount equal to the loss tax generated. We can't directly pledge loss tax, but we can limit the amount that we have to pay by formula in the documents. Let's see, municipalities will receive their, Watkesville, Bogart get lost, they'll receive their lost share. That's not involved in this. And all 4 municipalities will get their SPOS share out of this. So of the 16 million, there's some of it that really remains our money, but we can't really put our hands on it for a while. $1.2 million of the bonds will be held in debt reserve. Typically that'd be used to make the last year's payment. So one way to think about this is that knocks it down to 14.8. And then there is a very strange $3.2 million pot that's required by IRS rules. Within the last 2 years, the IRS has interpreted a code section that's always been there, such that if you give a private company a benefit like we're talking about, they're liable for income taxes on that amount. Some very bright lawyers at a firm, one of the big international law firms named Denton's, came up with an approach that the IRS has approved, where you take a portion of the bond amount, you invest it, and in our case, it'll be held by a division of JP Morgan. They earn interest on that money, and at the point where the money earned equals the incentives, the county gets that money back. So the 16 million drops to 14.8 because we'll be able to use 1.2 as the last payment. And then you take the 3.2 out and you're down to 11.6. That's, to me, that's the real number that we're borrowing. In addition to the $16 million, the county is going to offer property tax incentives such that the company won't pay property taxes either on real or personal property for a period of about 15 years. The benefit of that is about $3.5 million. Just the points I want to make crystal clear. County has no obligation beyond loss payments. And if Costco moves, which that would be an unusual thing based on their history, we have no liability whatsoever.
Very good. Any questions on that?
I got some general questions. Any more presentations?
There's not really.
The one thing the board will need to do is approve the, there's a resolution that you'll approve authorizing the agreement with the IDA. And we'll come back at a later date. I guess I have left one thing out. We'll come back at a later date with final numbers and actual closing sources of funds and things like that. While we are doing the validation, and y'all all know this just sets the process for doing the validation, I'm meeting with the DA on Monday. We'll file the 3 bond validations probably on Monday. The ads will run that week, next week, and the next week. We'll do the hearing the week after that. Stiefel, the investment banker, will be busy trying to get these packaged and sold. And then sometime toward the end of September, there'll be a closing. And at that point, we'll come back to the board with some additional documents to approve.
Very good. I think we're ready.
My question is the IRS tax code that you were talking about, can that change in the future? And if it can, how will that affect this?
The opinion we've got is that if once we've done this, we're set for this. Now they could change it prospectively. So like another deal next year might have a different set of rules, but we'd have a safe harbor for this transaction. And it wouldn't be our problem. It'd be the developer and Costco's problem, because the result of it would be, it'd be taxable to them.
Mhm.
Mr. Harden?
I've got just some general questions. and whoever, I think this would probably be for Courtney. You mentioned about the number of employees, and that's both full-time and part-time. And you mentioned the number of 250 to 275. How does that compare with other large employers in the county, specifically like Caterpillar? How many employees do they have?
Approximately 14 to 1,500, depending on the timing.
Okay,
Some of which are contract, but all cap.
so would this be in the category of a large employer?
It would certainly, for Oconee County, this would fall into one of our large employers. Yes, sir.
Okay. I think that maybe these questions are for attorney and for the chairman. Just making sure, Daniel, you mentioned about the debt service reserve, I think 1.2 million. And of course, you've said that if Costco closes, the county no longer has to make payments. Who would end up bearing the brunt of that unpaid debt?
The bondholders.
Okay,
And that's why these bonds will bear a higher interest rate. So the bonds we just closed, the effective interest rate was slightly less than 1%. These are going to be more like 5 or 5.5%.
so the bondholders would end up owning the 155,000 square foot building.
No, they don't wind up owning it. If Costco walked away, I think, Jim, does the IDA wind up owning it at that point?
Costco has the option to purchase it.
Yeah.
But if not,
Yeah, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Jim Woodward, it's not secured by the real estate, and so the bondholders, if you default and they accept that risk by the interest rate they're receiving, Costco has the option to purchase the project from us by, if that happens or at that time. But in order for them to buy the project, they have to pay off the bonds. So that basically pay off the bondholders. But if they just go away and don't buy the project, basically the bondholders are in default. They don't get their payment, and the authority owns the project. And so it'd be ours. More than likely, Costco would buy it. Yeah.
So once the bonds are paid off, of course, you mentioned that debt reserve go toward the final payment. Talking about property tax, of course, that's the reason the IDA will hold title to the property,
That's correct.
and that allows that. You mentioned about the property tax abatement would be for approximately 15 years. Is that timed with where'd the 15 years come from?
That's the amount of time it takes to generate the income that we've promised from the property tax abatement.
Okay, so,
It's just a coincidence. It's the same amount of time.
so can that time shorten or lengthen, or is it 15 years
It's
fixed?
set.
Set.
And the only reason I said 15 or 16 years, there's a slight difference between the real property and the personal property. Some of the personal property might not be acquired immediately, so they wanted an extra year. But the truth is, personal property depreciates so fast, that's almost meaningless.
And I think the number that y'all used was the comparison of how much property taxes would generate was what, 300,000 a
Yeah.
year?
This is approximately a $3.5 million incentive.
But what we're giving up per year
Yes.
is
Yeah.
what, 300,000? I mean,
Yes. And that's just an estimate. I mean,
Okay.
my guess is honestly, tax appraisal and all that is probably less, but
depending on
that's,
what
yeah,
millage rate we charge.
that's right.
So of that, the school board gets hit for the 200,000, we get it for 100.
That's
So
correct.
that's how that's split.
That's right.
So I mean, I know the school board, would be interested in the East Floss, but are they, I mean, they're aware of the hit on the,
Well, it's-
They are.
and it's not necessarily a hit because all they're receiving now is the property tax on the property as it is currently
well,
appraised. So it's not it's not $200,000 hit. So we'd have to look, we can look and see how much they're paying now. And that's what they're giving up in order to get 1 million. in Eagle.
Okay. I'm just saying, if we weren't doing incentives, I mean, if they went out and built the building, I mean, that's how much.
Yeah,
it adds to the
We
project.
tried that route and they weren't interested. in
I
doing
know that,
it.
but I'm just playing what
Yeah.
if. I'm doing like my son does. What
Okay.
if, Dad? What if, Dad? What if? And once that 15 years, is that when the property transfers from the IDA over to
Yes.
Costco? Now, talking about property tax abatement, just, I mentioned Caterpillar. What, I looked on the wall, it's been almost 10 years ago. What was the deal with Caterpillar? Did we give up property taxes on that?
We did. And I'm trying to remember, it was a rolling abatement. And it's got another 5 or 6 years, I think, Jim. 20-year tax incentive, yeah.
So we got
So a little
another-
bit more than this one, but
Did we issue bonds or have some incentives in the Caterpillar deal?
rough, I think the county bonds were roughly 18 million. Yes.
And
Clark County issued, about the same amount of bonds for their share. Well, they may not have issued bonds. They may have paid for it out of cash. Okay.
so the money we incentivize Caterpillar, how much sales tax are they generating for Oconee County?
Pretty much none.
So where's the payback from Caterpillar? Is it eventually the property tax?
Property tax, jobs. I think at the time there was a thought there would be other businesses that would locate because of Caterpillar. That didn't necessarily turn out to work, but just the economic development of the area.
So we issued a similar amount in bonds
Yeah.
for Caterpillar?
Yeah.
Okay. Don't they pay, I'm just thinking, it is about $500,000 a year.
They were still one of our top 10
Yeah.
already, even with the abatements that are in place. They're in the top 10 for tax payments to Oconee County. And I don't know that the deal worked out exactly like everybody thought, but it was around 2012, I think, when this was done. And if you look at some of the growth that started with jobs in the region, if you talk to some business owners who are out there, when that announcement was made was when their businesses started picking back up. It's an intangible metric that I'm talking, but it's been more than one that said when that announcement came out, it triggered something, it gave people confidence to go out and start moving dirt again. So.
And at some point, the Orkins are going to want to sell property again. And when they do, we've got an industrial park sitting there waiting on people.
That question about sales tax, but Courtney's gone over that, and I'm sure that's why the mayor's here. Want to make sure he gets his share. Okay. Question about the site. Did I see a site plan where it would include a signal at the Hobby Lobby entrance?
That's correct.
And that's part of what the developer will cover that initial expense. Will that be right away, or it's not a DOT project? I mean, we put this traffic light up there anytime we want. Is that true?
Yes, we control that road.
I mean, usually DOT says,
Well, there's still engineering standards that have to be met, whether it's DOT owned property or not. So once those warrants are satisfied, then the light can be installed. So there still have to be engineering that justifies the light being there.
so DOT still has a say?
No, this will be engineering standards.
Okay.
So
What about the distance between the intersection with the current signal there, the Oconee connector, and and what's that road called? I call it the cut through.
Parkway Boulevard.
Yeah,
I've not studied the plan, so I don't know how far
I mean, that's not gonna
Distances.
be an issue.
that'll be something that's looked at in the engineering.
Okay,
A lot of this was forethought out when the plans were done for that
Yeah.
roadway. So my understanding would already been looked at when they placed the intersections.
okay. It's given, or I'm making an assumption that they'll be connected to our water and sewer system,
That's correct.
and there's no incentive or abatement on that. utilities?
No, they pay the posted rates for
The full
water.
freight?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And of course, the county's ongoing responsibility, I know there's fire law enforcement, but is there anything else that, that would be coming out of our pocket? As far, it's just mainly the roads and the right of ways and,
Just normal maintenance like on any county road.
okay. So we won't be responsible for the upkeep of their parking lot or their
No,
heating in there and all that kind of stuff. So
no,
they won't be calling Rick Waller, won't come fix the heat in there.
No.
Okay.
they might call you, but I don't.
No, they won't call me. So I'm trying to get a simple, you gotta do this simple to me. I mean, the deal I hear, what Daniel said is you're gonna give me $3 million. And I'm gonna give somebody else $1 million and keep 2 million.
That's right.
All right,
Or at least that's the start number. Hopefully it goes up from there.
okay. All right. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Is there any public comment here today? Anyone virtually? Thank you. With that, we'll move forward with the transactions that need to occur.
The IDA had the heavy lifting on the documentation. They approved all of this. What the Board of Commissioners will do is approve this resolution, which authorizes all the actions that the county needs to take up to the point where we come back in with supplemental agreement after everything is finalized in terms of issuing the bonds and interest rate and all that. So the motion that we need from the Board of Commissioners is a motion to approve the resolution as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution as presented.
Second.
Very good. We have a motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Let the record show Commissioner Saxon votes aye. With that, the motion carries. Is that the only one we need?
That's it.
Very good. We do not have need of an executive session, so Commissioner Saxon,
Motion adjourned.
Second.
we are adjourned. Thank you.